We are Lucy and Andrea, both 3D artists currently based in London. We decided to start this podcast together as we aim to motivate and uplift creatives by sharing our knowledge and that of other designers.
So if you're passionate about growing your creative skills, staying inspired, and navigating the challenges and rewards of the creative career, this is the podcast for you. Therese Detje is a 3D artist and motion designer. Born in northern Germany, raised in Melbourne, Australia, and now is based in London. She currently runs motion design practice Zünc Studio alongside Therese Detje.
From the times I've met Theresa, I feel that she is someone who is curious about many aspects of life, loves to explore the world on bike, and dedicates the free time she has to learning. Thank you for joining our podcast, Theresa. This is very exciting.
So good to have you here.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yay. Well, I guess the best way to get started is to kind of get a little bit of a sense of your background. How did you end up in 3D?
Well, as you mentioned, so I grew up in Australia, in Melbourne. I was thinking about it over the last few days, like what were my like influences and inspirations, like even way back then. So I think I remember as a kid or like a young teenager as well, I always found it really cool to watch music videos on Saturday mornings. And I mean, I liked like cut and movies and stuff as much as the next person, but there was something about music videos, I think, because they were like short, they were a bit quirky, they were a bit different. They just had like interesting themes. You know, there was like stuff from Gorillaz or like Outkast or even like Toxic by Britney Spears was like a really cool music video. So things like that, I was always like, oh wow, that's so cool that people make stuff like that.
Awesome.
And then like weirdly, there was also a lot of really good advertising in Australia. So like even thinking back now, there were just some like very captivating ads. Like it's weird that as a child I was like, oh, this beer ad is really cool. But there was like this amazing ad for a brand called Tui's beer where there was like a tongue that crawled out of a guy's mouth and it was like crawling across the floor of this bar to like jump into an esky and wrap itself around the neck of a beer bottle and like drag it back to the person's mouth.
That's so weird.
Yeah. There was another really good beer ad for Carlton Draft, another Australian beer brand, which was like, I think they had like the cinematographer from Lord of the Rings and it felt like super epic. There was this huge crowd, like amazing soundtrack, and they managed to like get this crowd into formation to create like a 2D image of like a person drinking a beer. So there were all these people in like yellow costumes like running down the throat of the like
That is so cool.
person drinking the beer. You'll have to like see it to understand it, but like there were just amazing ads like that where I was always like, that's so cool. And I think that was always like an interesting factor for me that there were like ads that you wanted to watch or like that you wouldn't mind if they came on TV again because they were like quirky or interesting. And then I think there's also like certain ads end up being part of culture, like catchphrases or like characters from ads and stuff. They end up being like, part of culture sometimes.
How old were you at this point? Like when you think about this, your younger self watching these ads?
I don't know. I would say like between maybe like 9 and up to like my teenage years. I would say that's like when I was watching TV. Like I don't really watch TV anymore now. I'm sure there's great ads, but somehow I don't really watch TV, so I'm not really that in the loop on like broadcast ads anymore. Anyway,
cool. So you feel like that kind of drew you to then what?
Well, yeah. So then I did my bachelor's in Melbourne at a university called RMIT, the Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology, which was a great university. I did it was this like hybrid degree called professional communication, which was a mix of PR, journalism, and media. So it was kind of like a taster course of like all these different things, and we had quite a broad selection of electives that we could choose. And there, my favorite classes were the cinema studies. We watched and analyzed a lot of really interesting films from all over the world and like different genres, like documentary and stuff like that. And also advertising, I did an elective of. So I kind of like realized like, oh, I think I really like advertising. And I think again, it's like the fact that they were these like short format things, because like obviously in my studies other people were more interested in like making feature films or like longer format things or investigative journalism and stuff. But for me, it was like these really short visual things that were like clever. And I think that's kind of what drew me to the advertising electives, because we were studying a lot of ads and you only have 30 seconds, let's say, to tell a story, to be captivating.
I feel like that's my favorite part of what we do as well.
Yeah. You have to be like super efficient with what you're saying and how you say it.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's even when you were saying about music videos, it's like that is my first memory of like getting excited about what you could do. And I think it's the combination of the storytelling. It could be so silly for whatever the song is, or like really creative, mixed with the choreography.
Yeah.
I was like so infatuated with just, binge watching music videos for that reason.
Yeah, I mean, there's like so much great stuff. Like, could talk about it like all day, but like even I remember I was thinking about Air New Zealand, the airline of New Zealand. They have like amazing safety videos. So I remember like actually getting on board on a plane and like sitting down, and like by then I'd like been lucky enough to fly around the world a lot already. So I was kind of like used to like, oh, it's just another boring like safety video. And then it's like an elf, a person dressed as an elf, like and then there's all the like, it's like a filmed video obviously, and there's all these like hobbits sitting in their seats and like a wizard in the back.
It's
like,
actually really fun. That
really
New Zealand one, yeah.
It's so clever.
I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that they loved a safety video on a flight.
Right? Yeah.
Genuinely, they're good.
Yeah.
Oh, hilarious.
So then after that, you ended up narrowing down, I'm guessing, into more advertising. How did that happen?
Yeah, so after my bachelor's, I worked at a really small advertising agency in Melbourne for, I want to say 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
Which was fine and interesting. Like it was like my first taste of corporate life. So I remember like the first time, my first work week, and I was like, oh my God, you have to sit like 8 hours in the same room every day.
That was the same, yeah.
Like it's such a physical shock, I think, when you start your first job.
Yeah.
But it was fun and engaging, and like lots of like interesting little stories from that. But I think when I was like 21 or 22, I had something like a quarter life crisis, I think, where I was like, oh, this could be it for my whole life. Like I could just be like getting promoted and like working in this industry, and I don't know, I kind of like freaked out a bit, because I was like, oh, I would like to see a bit more of the world and like do a bit more and like have a bit more of a story to tell about myself. And I always really, really loved learning. Like I loved high school, I loved university. I think I really love being in an academic setting.
Right.
I genuinely love learning. Like even now, like learning new stuff, troubleshooting, all that kind of stuff is like actually a big joy for me. So at the time I was like, I just want to go and study again. I think I want to like be a student. I didn't really feel the need that I needed to study like in order to like further my career. It was more like for the lifestyle of it.
Okay.
And also I felt a bit like I wanted to move abroad, specifically to Europe, because like you mentioned at the beginning, I was born in Germany, but my family moved to Australia when I was 2. So I never experienced what it was like to live in Europe. I'd been there a few times to visit relatives. So I'd like been back and visited as a tourist and stuff like that. But I was feeling like, oh, maybe it would be really nice to see what it's like to live there as well.
Yeah.
So then, I looked around for some courses, applied for a few different unis around Germany and Denmark specifically. And then I was accepted into a master's course at Aalborg University in Copenhagen. So then I was moving to Copenhagen, which was like quite random. I'd been there before, but only stayed like 2 days or so. But I just had such a good impression of the city.
Nice.
Wow, that's bold.
Yeah,
love it.
And what did you study? What was your master's?
My master's was a Master of Tourism, which is like quite random. But at the time, I was really not thinking about like, oh, what's the best thing to do for my career? I was genuinely just like, what would I find interesting and would be like an interesting topic to study? And it's kind of funny because then like in that tourism degree, which was like a lot about like anthropology and culture and stuff like that, there was like still I managed to like pivot it into a sort of like marketing and media angle in the end. Like there was one group project that we did, where I think it was off the basis of like a marketing semester that we'd done, like marketing and tourism, and so we selected the topic of Game of Thrones tourism. So that was like an interesting thing to study for this group project. So we like flew over to Northern Ireland and we like investigated like were people going to visit the film locations from Game of Thrones, because a lot of them are in Northern Ireland. And because to talk about Lord of the Rings again, like that was a big impact for New Zealand. That was like the case study we were looking at in university, that like loads of people go to New Zealand to visit the locations, and like I guess they find it interesting because they've seen it in a film and they'd like to see what it's like in real life. So it was a bit like random, but somehow I look back and I'm like, oh, it kind of was related. But yeah, I didn't get into like 3D until a few years later then.
So after that, did you go back to advertising somewhere in Copenhagen or?
No, yeah. So I did. It was a 2-year master's in Copenhagen. In Copenhagen is where I met Andre.
Yeah.
And yeah, we got together there, and we like traveled around a little bit more. And then I was kind of coming to the end of my studies, and I hadn't really thought about like what's next for myself. So at that moment, I was kind of. I feel like sometimes in life you get like swept up by other people, or like swept up by somebody else's suggestion, which I think is fine to do once in a while if you don't really know exactly what you've got planned for yourself. But at the time, he had received a job offer from Future Deluxe, one of the studios in London. So we were like, oh yeah, that's not a bad idea. Why don't we move to London? At the time, it was like possible and easy for me to do because I have like the German passport. So before Brexit, I didn't need to worry about a visa or anything like that. So that was really great. We moved to London, where he was working for Future Deluxe. We met some really nice people who are still our really good friends today. I think that's like such a nice thing about the CG community in London, that everyone's like friends, and even though we're like technically competitors, there's still a lot of like camaraderie.
For sure.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was sort of my introduction to 3D, that it even like existed, was the fact that we moved to London. Andre was working for a 3D studio. Then I kind of discovered or learned about all the other 3D studios and artists and stuff like that. So after I'd finished my thesis for my studies, then I started working at a media company in London, where I was working as a writer, like an editor, 2D animator, and then eventually a 3D animator.
Such an eclectic mix.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I kind of like designed my role there in the end. Like they were not doing any 3D there at all. And I was kind of like, hey, have you guys considered doing some 3D? Like maybe it's going to like add a little bit of extra to these videos. And they were like, yeah, okay, why not? If you can do it, then do it. And so I would like spend like, 3 days making like modeling a pear or something, which was like completely irrelevant. And I look back now, I'm like, wow, I can't believe they let me, like they paid me to do that.
I can't believe they let you do
So
that, because
cool.
I feel like when you're at a certain level at a company, you have to do very specific tasks.
Yeah.
So to have that freedom to just suggest that you can do 3D and then also have the space and time for it, like that's wicked.
Yeah. I mean, it was like, it's an interesting company because they were, they just posted like so much content, and like I guess the model was that like once in a while it would go viral. So it would be like articles or videos or like, little like internet clips and stuff like that. So it was nothing super highbrow. But I think for that reason, they were like open to experiment and stuff
So
like that.
cool.
But yeah, then eventually I was like doing more and more 3D. Then at one point, I had a discussion with Andre about like, oh, maybe this is something more interesting for me rather than the writing, which is initially what I was hired to do at this company. And yeah, we kind of talked about like, what would I need to do to like actually get serious about it and actually to like pivot it into a serious career. And then, at one point I just decided to quit that job, and I was like, okay, I'm going to like teach myself everything, because that's what he had done. So I think that really helped to have him as a sort of like mentor, because I didn't know many other people in CG at the time. I think like a lot of people are self-taught in 3D, which is something I know now, but I think it's just like really great to have an example of somebody who's like taught himself or herself how to do it all themselves. I mean, with the help of YouTube and Vimeo.
Still
at the time.
crazy though.
But it's like, it's demonstrating that it's possible. So then you can take that step.
Exactly. Yeah.
And when was this? Like, what year are we talking now?
So that was in late 2018.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
So about 6 years ago. But at the time I was like not really sure if it would work out. And I remember giving myself like a timeline. I was like, I'm going to give it 6 months.
Oh, wow.
If I fail miserably, I'm just going to go back to doing the same job that I was doing.
Yeah.
And I think like giving myself that like backup plan, I think was really helpful.
Such a good idea, because I feel like so many people, just from being scared to take that step, don't do it, and instead you're postponing that moment of regret.
Exactly.
So that's so good that you gave yourself that moment of at least try.
Yeah.
Give it a go and then see. And you always have like a career path you can fall back on.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I was really fortunate because like Andre and I were living together. So I said to him, like, I'm probably not going to earn any money for 6 months. Like, are you okay to like handle, all like I had a little bit of savings, but I didn't want to like, I couldn't pay for like everything. So I was like, I'll pay you back once I make the money.
Yeah.
And I did. Like I was also like extremely disciplined, I would say, in those months. So I really treated it still like a full-time job. So I would like be at the desk at 9.
Well done. That's so cool.
Till 6. Made sure I held myself accountable.
Yeah.
So for me, that was starting a fresh Instagram account and like posting things there, even though they were like, not great, but it was still like a really good practice for me to just like get stuff out there.
Exactly.
Make things, finish them as well, because that's 100%. The other thing. Like I like did a lot of stuff based on tutorials that like I finished but never posted, but I think often just because it was like exactly the same as what they had made in the tutorial. So I think it's important to like learn something but then still put your own twist on it in the end.
For sure.
Try and reapply.
Yeah.
I mean, what you're saying resonates with me so much, because I did the exact same thing. I took that's 6 months out of dedicated, I'm going to treat this like a full-time job, the 9 till 6, and often like honestly 7 days a week. But it becomes so addictive, and especially at the beginning, you're learning so much so quickly every day that the rewards are really high.
Yeah.
So you kind of just get locked in. But yeah,
it's so fun.
It's so fun. It's so fun. But I also think like, what my partner was saying to me at the time, because I was making so much stuff that was quite shit, but also satisfying to learn. But your taste outweighs your skill, and that's quite a difficult thing
all
to
the time.
Keep working through, and just knowing that you're going to get better. You just have to give it time, and I do think it takes a bit more time than you perhaps think.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially when you see the work you admire. That's what got you excited to start. But to actually get to that level, it's a long-term thing, isn't it? So
yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it's super rewarding when you actually put your mind to it and hold yourself accountable to actually get the work done.
For sure. And what were your influences, either in 3D or outside of 3D as well?
I think at the beginning I was like mostly very obsessed about learning what's possible. Nice. So I wouldn't say I was like trying to build any sort of like style at that point. I would say maybe like in the first year I was really just like trying to figure out what's possible in this software in Cinema 4D. So like big influence was like EJ from iDesign, just because at the time that was like the best range of tutorials.
100%, yeah.
Because thinking back, like I don't think Patreon was really a thing back then.
I was going to say, like back then, I guess it would have been a bit difficult to find all the tutorials, but now maybe there's too many that I would find it difficult to be like, what do I learn from who as well, which is important.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you feel the same, but if I was to go back and do it all again, I think the biggest takeaway for me is to actually learn the fundamentals first, rather than just taking lots of ad hoc YouTube tutorials that are like 20 minutes, learn this technique, like an hour long, learn this other technique. And it was so kind of long and winding. And actually you need to get the fundamentals locked before you then start just kind of playing around with different sims and whatnot.
Yeah. I remember I did this modeling tutorial, modeling a chair in Cinema 4D. It was like some sort of existing designer chair that was like beautiful wood carving with like all the amazing joinery and this like hanging leather seat. And it took me 9 hours. I think the tutorial was like a 6-hour long recording. So like to follow along, it took me like a day and a half, I would say. And like I never like did anything with the chair, but it was like what you're describing. It was just like such a good way to learn the fundamentals of like modeling, which is like not something I do a lot. But I think now, if I hadn't have done that, there are like so many things that I think back now, like the principles of like modeling a circle into a shape, like those sorts of things, like I learned specifically from that tutorial. Back then, there was at the beginning, like I was saying, like there wasn't so much of an influence or inspiration, I would say. Like I definitely had guidance from Andre. He had like a very specific style that he was like quite known for before we started the studio together. And I didn't want to like copy what he was doing.
100%, yeah.
So I think I would say like at the beginning my work was like very cartoonish almost, but I think it was just because that's like the tutorials I was following. They happened to be a lot of like character work and stuff like that as well. But maybe like later on, once I felt like I had developed the skills and like I'd kind of like understood the tools that were available to me, then I started to focus a bit more on like, oh, what can I make that like reflects my interest or like my artistic vision or whatever. And I think like nature is a really
for sure
good inspiration, I think, for a lot of people. But I think that's like the world's like ultimate form of advertising. I mean, if you think about like the smells of a flower or the colors of an insect or whatever, like all of those things are meant to be signaling to other things in nature, like, look at me, I'm attractive, come and pollinate me or whatever. So I think there's lots of like interesting forms and colors to take inspiration from. I think also like in general, like still an inspiration today is like the like Scandinavian sort of design and culture. I think that's like, especially having lived in Copenhagen for a while, I kind of got to understand like the lifestyle. There's amazing brands who make like beautiful furniture and, silverware and fashion, lamps. Like there's lots of beautiful design pieces that are very like sculptural but functional. I think it's like in general Danish design or Scandinavian design is often like looks very modern but also very timeless.
And then I guess so obviously now you work at Zünc, which you've co-founded, and I always find when I see your work shared, I know exactly that it's come from Zünc. It has a very distinctive visual language, usually combined with quite an absurd, but I mean that in a positive way, concept. I especially love the Oakley one where the glasses are born out the egg. I just think
that was so
so
cool.
bizarre and fabulous. And it's, I guess it's very memorable. And then obviously you and Andre are both creative directors. So how do you manage the creative vision and how do you bring your personal styles together to kind of, to create your output for Zünc?
Good question, because then you also have to consider like the point of view of the client as well.
For sure.
Because, you can't just as a studio only channel like your own creative vision. There's also, the existing guidelines of the brand. But I think it really comes down to like each project. There are, some brands that I think are a really good fit with our studio. I think, for example, the Oakley one, like Oakley as a brand, it's very like youthful. It is a bit absurd, like you were saying, like they're not afraid to like make unusual stuff or like a little bit of otherworldly kind of stuff. It's not like so typically like serious fashion kind of stuff. I think Zünc's work is an interesting mix of like we're really passionate about working with like nice products and nice brands. It's like primarily product visualization in the end. So like making them look extremely beautiful and very realistic, but at the same time having that little extra something. So like whether it's absurd or whether it's like satisfying to watch. So I think that's something that like both Andre and I really strive for, like with any project, is to not only make it something that would be like, yeah, beautiful, but also like you want to watch it again. It's kind of like going back to what I was saying about the other ads, you know, growing up, that it's like ads that you don't mind if you see it again.
Yeah, that's really interesting how it actually does, it completely ties back to what you're producing now.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say like, I mean, the ads we make are like not broadcast ads, and they're not really in the same like comedy stream as like some of those other ones I described. But yeah, there's something about it that it's like I do want to make ads that people don't want to like swipe away from.
For sure.
Are the decisions you make, are they conscious that you're creating something extra that people want to come back to, or does that happen semi-organically?
I think it happens semi-organically. Yeah, I mean, I think there's also like a lot of work that we make, which is like you can't make every shot a money shot, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, there's like certain things that we've seen in like briefs that come to us where like we've seen some shots of ours on mood boards, and like that's always a big indicator of success, I think, to see like, oh, that's the shot that you found most interesting from that campaign that you want to reference in this new campaign. It's pretty organic. It also comes a lot from like experimentation, I think. There was like something funny in that Oakley campaign where one of our designers, he put the glass, we had this like gecko that was in the background of all these shots. So it was just like a little yellow gecko in the background always, because like one of the things that the client wanted to add was a touch of color, because it was otherwise like quite a concrete world. So lots of grays and greens. And they were like, we want to have a little pop of color if it's like some flowers over there, or like the gecko or a butterfly. So we had this model of a gecko, but he was always like in the background, like out of focus. And then at one point, Philo was like, oh, maybe like he deserves a close up. So he like put the camera really close, then like scaled the glasses down, put the glasses on the gecko, and like made this like amazing looking render with like beautiful textures, beautiful lighting. And it was just like a bit silly. But like we had this stuff there. So, and it didn't take him long to just like, put the render out, and then we were like, oh, that's really funny. Like the client didn't ask for it, whatever. We're not going to like seriously show it to them. But then we made like a share deck for that round, and we just put that render on like the contents page of the deck. And then later on, they were like, oh, that's actually really good. Do you think we can we add that to the deliverables?
I love that. When does that
so cool.
That's so good that happens.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like, and it's not like you're pushing for it. You just suddenly leave it there.
Yeah.
It's just like,
why not?
On an extra page somewhere. I'm going to keep that in mind.
These clients are great.
And when what brought you to starting Zünc with Andre?
It kind of all just fell into place, really. Like
it sounds pretty organic from everything that you've been telling me, like ending up in London with him.
Yeah, like we never really at any point sat down and were like, oh, let's make a business. It happened. So it all happened like off the back of Andre being quite an experienced and quite a well-known CG artist at the time. So we moved to London in 2017. So he worked at Future Deluxe. He also worked at Man vs. Machine. Before then, he'd worked at One Sal in Tokyo, Sponsor in Munich. So he'd like had a lot of experience at some top studios, and then always in between or like after work, somehow always found time to make personal work, which he was sharing to social media. And like even back then, like I'm talking about it like it's so long ago, but it's not that long ago. But I feel like Instagram and also like Vimeo was a big one for social media back then. They were quite different to what it's like now. So like he was posting stuff and managed to get like a few 100,000 followers. And I don't know if it's because of that, but somehow he started getting like more and more brands directly coming to him or agencies directly coming to him to ask him like, oh, would you have like time to work on this like this commercial, this brand or this campaign? He was getting these inquiries while he was full time, and I think in the end he was like, I'm actually going to like quit so that I can say yes to these things, because they weren't like freelance gigs either. I think he did a little bit of that in between, but like it was interesting that they were like straight away these like projects, which were like smaller than what we're doing now, but it was enough to make him think like, oh, I can just do that. Like I don't have to be at a studio to work on these things. So then it just so happened that when he was doing that, like I was working in the same room, freelancing for like other studios. And after like maybe a year of that, he started to receive enough projects that he was like, oh, maybe you could help me on this one. And I think that was helpful because like I wasn't like an amazing artist back then, but I was still like helpful enough to work on these things. So I was like another pair of hands for the CG aspect. But I think also what I helped bring was like my background and knowledge and interest in like marketing and advertising in general, and having worked like in the agency back in Melbourne, the media company in London, like I did have like an understanding of also like how should you work with clients or like what's in it for them. Like you also need to think about like from the point of view of the client, or like the importance of a deadline and all those
so
sorts
invaluable.
of things.
What a good combination of like minds coming together.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah. And also like he is from Czech Republic originally, so like he was telling me, like I didn't really even think about it, but he was like, oh, it was actually really like gave me a lot of like confidence that there was like a native English speaker like on our side, because like like his English is like fine, it's like perfect.
Yeah, for sure.
But I guess like maybe if it's not your native tongue, maybe you just like don't feel super great about it.
Did you have like some sort of a creative vision, each of you, for what you wanted to create, or was that also very organic?
Yeah, we never had any like clashes or like I don't know. I think we just really like wanted to do a great job at the projects that we were working on together. So it was, doing a good service for the client, but also not just executing a brief. It was like they've come to us with this brief. We say like, okay, cool, we see your storyboards or we see your like references and ideas. And I think like even to this day, it's like super important to like acknowledge that and see that, but then also still to like push it and like offer something else rather than being just like a production studio that's been hired to do something. We just sort of had like a respect for each other. I think I like knew that Andre had all this experience and he had like a specific vision, and after all these projects were coming to him. So I think I was like happy to just be like, okay, like if there's a decision we need to make, like I'm happy for you to like give the guidance on this, the creative guidance on it. And, of course I would like have my input as well. But I think there was never any like headbutting or anything like that about anything creative. Cool. I think we always saw like eye to eye with it.
And I guess as well, like your relationship started in such a like-minded way as well, like, and your careers kind of merged together over time. So it wasn't from, meeting to then working separately to then running a studio together.
Yeah.
Because, I used to do web design when I was younger, and I would work with my partner, who my ex at that time, who was a web developer. So we would do projects on the side together. And I think there's so many positives about working with your partner, in the sense that you can be really honest and frank, and there's no beating around the bush. You just say things as they are and they take your feedback. So that's really useful. Challenges I found were not being able to separate work from other aspects of life. I think that was difficult for us, and maybe getting too personal sometimes. Just how do you find working with Andre in that dynamic? Because I feel like you seem to do it really, really effortlessly.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's like for sure pros and cons about it. I think I fully agree that it's so helpful to have that frankness and be able to just say it how it is. It's important to be professional and polite, but sometimes things don't get done, unless if you're always beating around the bush, or like you don't know how to suggest something, or you feel like you have to compromise or something like that. It can be hard sometimes as well. I think like sometimes you need to remember that like creating like decisions or conversations like for the sake of the business, and then compared to like personal life. So I think something I struggled with was, now that we have a team as well, like learning to being able to give feedback and to be critical about things, or like maybe like not to be like mean or harsh or anything like that, but to like demand a certain like level of things from people. I think that was like a good example of like, okay, it's not like I'm not doing this because like I want to be like criticizing people or making them do something again. It's for the sake of the project. Or I think being able to separate like a decision that you make or a conversation that you have for the sake of the project or the business or whatever, compared to like your personal life and your personality.
Yeah.
That's something that I learned a lot about because Andre and I have that like professional and personal relationship.
Interesting. Do you guys, I don't know, because I wouldn't know. I've never been in a situation like that, so I wouldn't know. But I mean, I guess when I'm with friends who also do 3D, I feel like sometimes we talk a lot about 3D, or maybe we can get into that little wormhole of talking about 3D, and then suddenly you're like, wait a minute, I need to talk about something else.
Yeah.
How's life?
Sure,
How's your bloody life? But yeah. And so I don't know, does that happen to you guys sometimes where you're like, oh, I need to take a break?
Yeah.
I need to switch.
Yeah. I mean, like going on holidays, it's like takes like a week to switch off, and then like you have to go back, and it's like, oh, like I've only just switched off now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you need
it's
like that separation from London a little bit? Maybe that's why you go on your bike rides
Yeah.
outside London.
Yeah, I mean, like I think it's like, again, a good thing and a bad thing, like that. I would say that like working together does like come into personal life a lot. Like it does take up a lot of conversations, but also I think both of us were saying like if we had started a studio with like somebody else in another reality, like it still would have. I'm not sure if it would have been better, because imagine coming home and then like you need to do some extra work or you need to discuss this or that, then like you're still not going to have like much time for each other. So it's almost nice that like even though you're like doing stuff for work or like talking about work, like you still are able to like understand that from each other and not be like distant as well.
Yeah.
That's a fair point.
And there is like an extra little bit of connection, I feel, when you both do something so similar. Because I don't know, 3D artist struggles.
Yeah, but it's true. Because I mean, I honestly sometimes struggle because my partner is in a very different world and he doesn't understand why why I might work so hard, and in the sense that the distance is there because I might be working late purely because I want to, and that's just the nature of it sometimes. And then the quality time can sometimes be missing then. You're obviously both aligned because you're both invested in the same vision, which you are doing together, therefore spending that time together. You've already kind of answered some of this, but what are the key things that you've learnt from running a studio and managing a team?
Yeah, that was I think managing a team, or like that's like the hard part of running a studio, I would say. I mean, like, not to say that it's easy to start a studio, but like when we kind of maybe just to go back to, so we started like working on more projects together. Then during COVID, we were like, oh God, what's going to happen? Are there going to be no projects ever again? But in the end, there were quite a few projects, enough so to like build a portfolio between the two of us. And then we had decided like, okay, let's actually like call it something, because we hadn't at that point yet. We'd done quite a few projects together, so we were like, okay, we're going to launch this in early 2021, I think it was. Yeah. So we put together like our website, we put together all the case studies and made a plan of like what we were going to share where and when. We had this like massive list of studio names, which were all like terrible, and we landed on Zünc Studio. And that was kind of, and then we launched, and then that was kind of like the start of the studio. And looking back now, that was like such a big deal and like an all-consuming thing. But like I feel like the hard work hadn't even started then. Like we were just making projects,
That's interesting. It's interesting that you thought this was the hard part.
Yeah.
And that was yet to come.
Yeah, absolutely. But every year since then, it's like there's been something new, like a new like stage or new age of the business. I want to say that like there's just different like challenges, like, something I was like worried about or dealing with, or that I thought was a crisis last year, like that's just like completely normal this year. You know what I mean? Like, so it's always been, building up this sort of like resilience, like still learning something all the time, troubleshooting all the time.
Yeah.
Can I ask very quickly what an example of that would be? Like, what's that one thing that used to be really harder now is kind of part of it?
For example, like, so when we got our first employees, like making a contract for someone, like,
Right.
you have to
Like,
learn
how do
about
people
like,
actually do this, right?
yeah, and like learning like, okay, in the UK, what are like the legal requirements of a business? Like, what do you need? What are you legally required to do for an employee?
Mm.
And then making sure you have a contract, because like you want to make sure it's like protecting yourself and like covers all the legal stuff. Plus, it makes it clear for the employee like all the decisions about like how much leave they get, what's their salary, blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. So I remember when we made the first contract, it took like so long. Or we had worked with like a freelance HR person to help set that up, because like we weren't just going to make up a contract. So it was like
Yeah.
important to get somebody who like actually knew these sorts of things. So yeah, that took a while to like just have a contract. And now it's like we've got the template. It's like if someone new joins, it's like relatively quick just to fill in the details and pass it along. And we know that that's just like something easy now.
Exactly, yeah. I guess that's like, there's a lot of things like that. That's just how
There you
life
go.
works, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's cool that
As
you're
well.
saying, and now it's just a breeze. It's like
Yeah.
every year, it's like growth that it becomes way less of a challenge.
Yeah,
for
and then
sure.
there's
Yeah.
new things that you face.
Yeah. But yeah, like managing a team is definitely like, I think in like any industry though, or like I think about this all the time, that like people who are good at their job, let's say you're a designer or a writer or like some other field, if you're really good at your job, you'll eventually be promoted, right? But like often you get promoted to be a manager, which is like completely
people.
different.
Very
Like,
different,
and it has
you
nothing.
don't have experience in that.
yeah, like imagine you're an amazing writer, you like have like great stories, and then like all of a sudden you have to like manage people. Like that's a completely different skill set.
I
For
just feel
sure.
like there should be training, like more. I don't know if it's just an experience, but there should be more specific management training for you to be able to thrive in that situation.
Which I think there is actually also. But then there's also like the people side. Like, are you a good people person as well?
Yeah.
It also
Yeah.
just comes with
Yeah.
your own territory as a human being. Is
Yeah.
like,
And then there's also different personalities. So some people might respond really well to a specific feedback, whereas
that's very
others,
true as well.
it can be complete opposite. So you're also navigating, learning the personality types of your team to be able to direct in the best way.
100%.
Do you find that also, like when you're giving feedback, do you ever ask like, what's your vibe, or I don't know, how do you go
I
about
think
that?
it's like, yeah, you don't really like ask like, how should I give you the feedback?
Yeah,
but you definitely like figure it out along the way.
Okay.
And like, I think that's also kind of nice about Andre and I running it together, because like we have quite different communication styles and personalities. And I think, that helps like to give feedback in a different way, because yeah, all team members, like they'll have different learning styles. They'll have, they'll help to understand things in different ways. So yeah, it's like for sure navigating that, you just figure it out after a while. And that's like the nice thing about having like a full-time team that you get to know after a while. So you can kind of figure out what's the best way to help everyone like understand what's the plan and the process.
Yeah, that makes sense. So now that we're talking a little bit about what's it like running a team, we also wanted to know, what do you feel makes a strong team? And is there anything that you guys do to kind of reinforce that?
Yeah. Well, it's like every project you kind of learn stuff about each other, and like, yeah, it builds on into the next project. But then also I think there's a big element of like exploration or experimentation, I would say. So like we always want to keep learning for everybody in the studio. So it's like learning new lighting techniques or whatever it is. But then also it's a lot about like, what else can we do beyond the computer? So we do quite a lot like outside of work. So last year, one of my favorite things we did as a studio was we took everybody to Tenerife, one of the Canary Islands, which was amazing. So we spent
insane. You gave everyone proper FOMO and envy on Instagram. Everyone was like, "Did you see?"
Yeah, it was great. So we had this like amazing house that we'd rented. It was like one of those ones you see on Airbnb where you're just like, what? That's crazy. Because it was a house in the middle of a national park, like on the coast.
So cool.
And yeah, we spent, I think it was like 10 days or 2 weeks there.
Wow.
Where it was like a work trip that we designed for ourselves, and it ended up being like a lot of exploration into photography. So
I was gonna say, yeah,
we brought like camera equipment. We hired some like we hired a drone, so we tried some like drone photography and filming. But we did some really cool shoots like of landscapes. We did a couple of sunset shoots with like us, like people photography or portrait photography, I guess, like against the backdrop of like the waves crashing against the rocks.
Those are so cool.
Yeah,
They were
and
absolutely
we had
stunning.
these like the continuous lights. So we brought like a studio setup for lighting to the cliffs. So we had these like big battery packs, so we could use these like big softbox lights, which just created like some really interesting light setups, because it's like bringing studio lights into nature, which is like actually what we do a lot in 3D scenes, right?
Exactly.
But we were like doing it in reality, so that was really fun.
How did that idea kind of come about of like, wait, let's just bring all this equipment?
Yeah, I don't know. I think like just lighting is such an important part of 3D, and like I think one of the best references for the work we do is like editorial photography, and just really looking at doing like light studies. So we did do a bit of like photography in the studio. Our new studio actually has like a proper backdrop, and we've still got a lot of camera equipment, so we do still like to do a lot of photography in-house.
Did you feel like you learned anything from doing those shoots and brought that back?
I can't think of anything specifically, but I think everybody really like learnt a lot about lighting, and yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it made for some really beautiful imagery though, didn't it? I thought it was so epic seeing the waves. And it was quite abstract, wasn't it? Like the lighting.
Yeah, it was like such an unusual light setup when I think about it now, because it was like very like silhouettal, but then with the soft boxes, like we're still like lighting from the front in a soft way. It was really interesting.
What did you do with the drones as well? Like, how did that?
The drones, I don't know. I feel like it's hard to get creative with drones. Like they're obviously really cool to fly if you have an interesting landscape, like on Tenerife. Like they have amazing landscapes there, obviously. So we just kind of got like typical drone footage of like around the volcano or like over the national park. But yeah, the drone, it was just like interesting to try it. Like, you know, that's part of experimentation as well. You just like see what it's like. And in the end, we were like, oh, we can't really do much with it. Like, which is fine. So you just like learn a bit about like, okay, like it's cool. But also, yeah, we couldn't do much. We crashed the drone.
No.
It was a drone that we hired. Lucky we had insurance for it. But yeah, someone put it on sports mode, which means that it like, because normally it would like detect if it's going near something and then it would like stop, but not on sports mode. So it just like crashed into. Yeah.
Who was responsible for that?
I'm not going to name names.
Love
but
that.
we were in the middle of a hike and they crashed it, and then we had to like wait for 20 minutes while they like scrambled through the trees and like retrieved it, and it came back with these like limp propellers.
Oh, hilarious.
Yeah.
Were you working at all whilst you were there? Or you just fully present?
We all brought laptops, so the plan was to be working. At the time we thought like, oh, it will be like doing photography stuff, some film stuff, like at the very least like watching some tutorials or like sharing stuff between ourselves. But then it just so happened that we received the inquiry for Oakley like as soon as we stepped off the plane, which was like really strange timing. So then in the end we were like preparing for the pitch, some of us. Yeah, so that's what we were doing while we were there.
It's quite fun to have like Tenerife as the background, the backdrop to that pitch work.
I know, it was like quite convenient. We just had this like beautiful mountain range behind us.
Oh,
yeah, cool. Just happened to catch us on our like amazing work.
This is where I basically base half a year. So nice.
we were also wondering, there's I think there's like moments in everyone's career that kind of stands out as like challenges along the way. For example, I know for me it was when I was actually trying to find a job in 3D, which we talk about in another episode a bit more in depth, but just it was right after COVID and it was like everything going on and I was like, I want my job, please. And so that was like a really difficult moment for me, and navigating that was a challenge. Then Lucy, I know you have like another moment.
Which I've talked about multiple times
Another
in these
moments?
episodes.
Or was it
Moments, but I would say the most constant one is getting burnt out from projects and work. Maybe it's the nature of the industry. Maybe it's also a bit of my personality because you want to do your best. And and I guess spreading yourself too thin and just
Yeah, so we were wondering, is there a moment in your own career, whether it was already as a studio or by yourself, were there any moments like that stand out?
I remember having like a bad feeling about like myself when there came a point where like we were running Zünc Studio and I was like doubting myself a lot because like I was wearing so many hats as you do, and I was like, oh my God, like I'm not a good designer anymore. Like I don't have any time to design. I haven't made anything good in ages. None of like, I mean, like when we were small, still working as a designer on all the projects, and I was like, oh, none of like the shots that I'm doing or the lighting setups I'm doing are like ending up in the final thing, stuff like that. So like feeling kind of not having like the self-worth as a designer anymore. But then I don't know, I think it's like something that I got over because I think it was just like a bit of a lull. Like I'm still designing now, but yeah, I think there was like a moment where it was like, oh, this is like my focus needs to be more on like the business side of things and like helping other people rather than like me myself as an artist and a designer like being the star of the show. So I think coming to terms with that was it wasn't like a massive deal, but I remember just feeling a bit like unsure of myself at that moment.
And so what got you through, is that what you said, is like figuring out what your strengths were as well within the team?
And just thinking about like, I don't know, maybe not putting as much like self-importance on like me as an artist, but recognizing that like it's even more valuable actually just to like help the studio in general, like whether it's like directing the project or like making suggestions of how to set something up for somebody else, or like just making sure that the overall like flow of the thing is good rather than being like really stuck in like one specific shot, let's say, of a film.
And also I guess like that is the path that you chose, and if you were to go down a freelance route for your own work, then you could do that. You could like really finesse shots, but it's quite a big feat to manage a whole team and see the bigger picture and like be presenting to clients, but then also be on the intricate details. Like it's asking a lot of you as an individual.
Exactly.
And seeing the bigger picture, I feel, is so important. And I guess for everything, for all sorts of projects, even if you're a freelancer, but when you're managing a team, even more so. And I kind of forgot what I was going to say off the bat of that, but
not to take the bigger picture for granted, doesn't it?
The bigger picture. And then you were saying, you say a lot about keeping the client's fit in mind, which I think is really important. And it's, I think it's what can set projects apart as well. It's an amazing feeling at the end of a project if both parties are really happy with it. Not only are you kind of outputting your own vision, but just that satisfying bit of outputting something that the client is really going to feel happy with and they're really going to use, and is also fulfilling their own vision. So I feel like you're bringing that in so much, which is cool.
But it obviously shows in the output of your work. The fact that it feels very distinctively Zünc, but also responding to the client's brief, that must be like very satisfying.
Yeah, it's really great. And I think like the best thing is we have a lot of repeat clients as well. So I think that shows that it's like, they were happy with it. It's nice.
Is that a challenge actually, to kind of make sure that because I'm guessing that sometimes clients can ask for things that maybe can push the project in a direction that actually might not be the best for them. And so how do you kind of manage those situations and client calls and stuff?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's tough. Like not every project is perfect, obviously. Like there's projects where like you would prefer to make your own director's cut version of it for whatever reason. But I think the important thing is like if you want to set a direction that's like something you're really excited about, it's best to do it like early because you have more time to like persuade the client or maybe like convince them like, oh, this is a really cool route, like why don't we try this. It's like, because you're less likely to do that in like the final round of a project. If you just like all of a sudden show them something brand new, they're just going to freak out and be like, oh no, that's not what we've ordered, you know.
Yeah.
I think it's also a good thing is to like, if off the bat the art direction or the concept is like not something you're super interested in, it's like good to make a version that they've like described,
Right.
or that they've suggested.
Yeah.
But then like if you have time, you can like show something that's a bit different or a bit extra, so you know they've got the safe thing that they've asked for, but then they're more likely to be like, oh no, like actually that is pretty cool, that other thing. So I think
more times they would go for that second option.
I wouldn't
do you
say
feel?
more times,
Oh,
but
okay.
like
Depends on the
it
client.
really depends on the client. Like there's some very like conservative or like not conservative, but they would just rather like play it safe, because at the end of the day there's like we can't pretend to like completely change the direction of a established brand where they've got like huge branding teams and they've like made a lot of decisions about like the color should be like this or like
exactly
whatever it is. Like we're just, you know, we can't think that we're going to be
and also,
a big enough influence to change something.
And also I reckon that just gives you all the design constraints that you then kind of gives you room to play within. So that's also
and it's also a good thing. It's good early on to see how far, if it's a new client, how far you can actually push them.
For sure.
Because sometimes they might have a very specific art direction and concept in mind, but they don't know unless they've seen something else. And that's really exciting. And I think when it is possible on a project to give maybe 3 concepts or like 3 different styles of art direction and see how far it can go, I think that's very exciting. What has been your favorite project with Zünc?
Well, I really liked the Oakley project that you mentioned earlier. That was from last year. Just because they were a fun client, like they were pretty open-minded. There was a shoot involved then as well, which was really fun. So we like helped to organize. It was just like a 1-day shoot in London, but there was like talent and a few like wardrobe changes. So just like going on set is good fun for any kind of project.
Yeah, quite different.
And then a lot of like, it was like an interesting campaign with like a big mix of like the live, or it was just photography stills, and then compositing like CG backgrounds onto those. We had the thing with the gecko, the egg that was like splitting open. So there was like lots of little fun things involved in that campaign. Yeah, and then we also recently did something for Hublot, which we haven't shared yet, but that's like that was a big campaign for us. That was a classic campaign with like a big hero film, which like you don't really see that much, I would say, in campaigns these days. And a hero film, which is still only like 60 seconds, you know what I mean?
Okay, but
that was,
it's no small
CG.
Yeah. 60 seconds is long format for us.
Exactly.
So that was a project I think that everyone's really proud of, because there was a lot to fit into the film, because it was like celebrating like this 5 different colorways of this watch that they have, plus they wanted to have like themes of space in there, because it was like all about the Big Bang, which is the name of the watch, plus like a laboratory kind of setting, plus like showing off the materials the watches are made of. And there were like so many things in the brief, and we're like, how are we possibly going to like contain all of that into a 60-second film? And we've managed in the end, which is really cool.
Awesome.
That's the fun part. I really enjoy that, like trying to work out how you can make an engaging story with so many elements. You're like, you're just kind of getting the puzzle pieces together.
Exactly.
Do you work with storyboard artists, or do you kind of do that yourself?
No. Yeah, we don't. We've like tried in projects in the past to like build storyboards and really stick to them, but like it's difficult. I think we're like, all of us are very like interested in exploring what's possible. So I think it's we've tried like different styles of project pipeline, but storyboards aren't really for us.
Wait, so you kind of, what is your process then?
Well, it really depends on the project, but like normally we would start with I think like the first 2 rounds, let's say, would be like R&D. So we're like it's like a mix of making style frames, it's like motion tests, it's camera tests. Yeah. And then we would sort of like have this like massive pool or like folder of all this R&D that like every artist has done, which is also a really interesting exercise. So we'll have like an overarching concept and art direction, but it's still really interesting to let each designer interpret the brief, find like the moments of the brief or the storyline or whatever it is, and like interpret it in their own way. So let's say with this Hublot one, it's like, oh, like I really want to see what it's like if I like combine like watches plus space, or like, yeah, it's just really interesting to see like what everyone's output is in those first few rounds.
It's nice that you have the openness with the team to let their vision kind of come to life as well. So everyone's kind of brain is being used.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, like when we work with freelancers, they're like, so what's the brief? Like what specifically do you want me to work on today? And we're like, I don't know, like just try something.
Cool. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
That's very much what Inertia is like as well.
Okay,
because it really encourages everyone to bring the ideas to the table, and it's not hierarchical in the sense that the creative director and the art director have the vision and you're making it. It's like bringing it all together and seeing what comes out, but still having a strong idea of what the overarching direction is.
Yeah, exactly. I think you're less likely to like copy references then as well. And like I would say like the creative director's role is still very important, because you need somebody to like look at the folder of things and be like, this is the strongest. Yeah. This one's the strongest. Like, let's take the idea of that one and the camera from this one and like merge it all together. And then you start to build like, maybe we wouldn't really do like a storyboard, but maybe we would start to then build like a loose animatic or like some sequences of things that worked well together. Yeah. And just sort of puzzling.
I feel like that's a really creative way of working. I like that.
And I think it keeps everyone in the team really engaged, rather than kind of feeling a little bit, not necessarily disheartened, but a little bit further removed from the project.
Yeah.
Everyone's
I felt
more invested.
Storyboards.
I can imagine.
Like we still get projects. We still get projects where we'll get a storyboard. But yeah, it's just like for everybody, I think they're all a bit like, oh, okay. Like you kind of know what to do, and like it's like clear what needs to be done. But yeah, it's just like less fun.
Yeah, I think there's like this element of discovery when you're working that way without a storyboard, because I think also everyone has like a different idea of what it could be, and then it's like seeing where it will go. I love that. And maybe just to finish off, we would also like to ask you what creative endeavors you have for the future, maybe, or where you would maybe like to take things in the next few, short term or long term, whatever you feel.
I wish I could answer that. I wish I could see into the future as well.
I'll give you a crystal ball. There you
go. You're not manifesting anything right now.
I think we are like working on. Well, we've like slightly expanded the team size, so we're like figuring out the best way to like run multiple projects at the same time. So it's like, it's not a very exciting thing, but that is like keeping us busy at the moment is figuring out like the structure of the team and like how to get the most out of everybody. Like
super important as well, because if you're expanding, then you have to have that kind of direction.
Yeah. And like I was saying at the beginning, like I think Andre and I never really thought about like, okay, let's like start a business together and we'll know like by year 2 we'll be like this and by year 3 we'll do that. So I think like, we didn't think about that at the beginning, but we're having to start thinking more strategically now about like what's like, what should we think about or anticipate if we're growing a little bit. But we're also quite apprehensive of growing too large, because I think if you have like too many people, then you have to start like chasing bigger projects or like more projects. And I think there's like an interesting balance of like how many people on the team versus how many projects you have going on.
For sure. That can also, I can imagine that getting quite stressful as well. I was just thinking, oh my gosh, because they're like, you have to take care of the salaries of all of these people, and suddenly it's I don't know, 10 people instead of just 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And how many are you guys now?
We are at 9.
9.
What?
Yeah. Well, that's a lot more than I realised before, I think.
Yeah. Well, at this time last year, I think we were 6. But it feels
exciting.
like big difference. I mean,
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Because I think I remember, I think a couple of years ago now, but asking you about how do you balance being or feeling creative and managing to run a studio and the difference it requires from you,
Yeah.
like mentally. Yeah. Do you feel like you've kind of got that balance and I do feel like having spoken to you today, you've accepted what your role is and how you work as someone managing a studio.
Yeah.
Do you still feel like you're creatively inspired? But it just is in a slightly different way to how maybe it was earlier on.
Yeah.
As just you and Andre.
For sure. I think I had like I think I really put my personality or like my like personal self-worth into my outputs, and I think now I'm thinking a lot more about like it's like the what we're making is like less about like me and my personality and my interests, but more like, is it something that's like cool, fresh? Is it something that's like interesting to look at? And yeah, I think there's like so much creativity still in my role. Like, even though I'm not the one who's like like, I still do light scenes, set up scenes, work on edits.
Yeah, I was going to
do
say
grading. Like there's still a lot of creative hats that I wear for sure. But I'm not like every single day like only working in Cinema 4D for like the whole 8 hours of the day. You know,
I'd say it's still pretty impressive that you are doing all of that whilst having a team of 9 of you.
And that you also get to dabble in C4D or Houdini or whatever it is.
Yeah,
you
like
take on.
I wouldn't count on myself as a designer for a project just because like you never know what else I would be like required to work on. But yeah, like if we have time or like if there's nothing else super urgent, like I still love to get into the tools and work on stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I remember going to your previous studio. You were like, yeah, I'm just working on this. And I was like, what? She had Houdini open and like the most crazy setup. And I was like, did you do that? And she was like, yep, just spent the day doing this. So yeah, it's cool that you get to go do that.
Yeah. But yeah, I think like, yeah, it's like different creative outlets now as well. Like I do enjoy having more of like an overarching view of the project. I think also like thinking about like what are our dream projects, or like what are some like cool kind of things that we should be aiming for, like being a little bit more zooming out more than like from, let's say, one shot in a campaign to like zooming back and being like, what's like
so important
the overall project that we're working on, the overall vision of Zünc.
And so what are those dream projects? Let us know.
I don't know. Well, we were like talking about some like just really interesting collaborations that have popped up. It feels like there's like so many interesting collaborations between brands these days, and that's like often been some of our favorite work as well. Like there was one project we did early on for Crocs when they made like a collaboration with the footwear designer Salihi Bembury, and that he made these like really cool looking Crocs, and yeah, that was like a really exciting project with a pretty open brief.
Yeah.
So we made some fun stuff for them.
Well, thank you so much. This has actually been really insightful, and time has gone
so
really
much.
quick.
Yeah,
it has.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah,
cute conversation.
Open. Yeah, it's very cute.
Thanks for having me.
Amazing. Thanks so much for listening to this episode. We hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as we did. We're releasing new episodes bi-weekly, starting on the 14th of July, and Season 1 will feature 6 episodes in total. You'll hear from a range of 3D artists about their journeys and creative processes, plus a few episodes where Andrea and I chat about our own experience and dive into topics that we're passionate about.
If you're enjoying the podcast so far, we'd really appreciate it if you could like and subscribe on your favorite platform, be it Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're tuning in from. If there's something you'd love us to explore more in depth, someone you'd like us to interview, or specific questions you might have, just send them over to our email, and we'll do our best to include them in Season 2, which will be out shortly after this one wraps up.
We can't wait to share the next episode with